Welcome back, friends. Today we'll be rambling together yet another tutorial, this time about importing custom assets like a hand smash or a skybox into your VR mod for a Mono Unity game. As you can see, I've got Blender open with a pre-made skybox. You can tell that it's made by me because it has these little unsightly seams at the edges. And what we'll be doing today is importing this skybox into our mod and displaying it in-game as the, skybox. Which should be pretty easy because the game has no skybox of its own, so it should be easy enough to test if it actually works. Alright, I assume that all of you already know how to acquire the assets you need. If not, we'll just be quickly exporting the skybox to FBX. I have already done this, but I'll overwrite it for the purposes of this tutorial. Just name it something.fbx, select mesh, these default settings are all okay, and export FBX. Now when that's done, no need to save anything. Let's go to our, well, first let's open Unity, of course. I'm using the same sample project that's using the same engine version as the game itself, so it's handy to keep that one around. And let's drag it into the editor. So I've got our FBX and just drag it like this into a custom assets folder. I made this one recently, so make a custom folder for your stuff if you want to. And there we go, it should be dragged into it. I've already got the skybox from my previous attempt, so mine is called Skybox 1 this time. And if you just drag it out into the level, you can see that it's not a skybox yet. The mesh is fine, as you can see it's got inverted normals, so you can only see it from the inside. But the texture is not applied yet. So let's do that real quick. Let's see how we did it for the previous skybox. We made a custom material for it called Skybox material, so let's make a new one. Let's call it create material, let's call it Skybox material tutorial. And just to see how this used to be, it's an unlit material, an unlit texture, which is pretty handy for skyboxes. Unlit texture, and for texture select daylight box UV. You'll also have to import the texture probably. I've already got mine from previous time, but let's import it again. Daylight box UV. Alright, and if you go to our tutorial material, you can check for it. Daylight. Well, it shouldn't really matter which one it is. I think this is the tutorial version. It shouldn't matter. Alright, as you can see here, our material is starting to... Well, our material is already pretty correct. We just need to apply it to the skybox. Let's go to Skybox 1, materials. We do not want to use embedded materials. Let's see how we did it for this one. On-demand remap. And let's just check our Skybox material tutorial. Oops. Double click it, apply, and as you can see, we now have a working skybox. Now to get it inside our game. This will be much easier if you just make a game object prefab out of it instead of just a mesh prefab or whatever it is. So let's check what I used for the game object here. Alright, yeah. So we're going to create something new. Create a, let's see. Oops, we need to create it here from game object, create empty. And let's call our object Skybox Geo Tutorial. I think it's probably still in assets. It should be somewhere. It's here. Let's just drag it over to here. So now we've got our Skybox game object. This is the thing that we are going to import and display into our game. But we need to add some more components, because at the moment, if we delete the old one, drag this into the scene, this does not display anything. We still need to attach a mesh and a mesh renderer to it. So let's add component, mesh filter. As for the mesh, we want to add our Skybox 1 mesh, which is a cube here. So let's just type in Skybox. No, let's type in cube then. Alright, as you can see, we've got 2 cubes. And let's add another component, the actual mesh renderer. Default settings should be fine, except for the material. Element 0 shall be Skybox. Again, let's just pick the material. And the material should be alright. Now if we add this, that's strange. It's still not added. Let me check what went wrong. No, it's reset itself. That's just stupid. I remember how I did it here. I did the same stuff. Let's try it again. Mesh filter. Cube. Skybox 1, yeah. Mesh renderer. Material. Skybox material tutorial. Everything should be alright. Let's try and open the prefab to see what happens. Alright, well, it looks like it's working. Go back to our scene, add this one. That's just what's happened. It's very tiny. Alright, well that's good enough for me. Can just leave it at this scale, maybe check what scale works for us. Let's try setting it at a scale of 100. Uniform scale of 100. Well, that's still not a lot. I think we're going to give it a bigger scale in-game, but it's enough to see that everything's working. Now, before we go into the game, let's check what rotation we need, because this is not the normal rotation for a skybox. It needs to be upside down, and I believe it's just giving it an X rotation of 270. Alright, and that's a nice skybox. Now that we've got our actual object ready, we need to go to, let's check, it was Well, anyway, what you need to do is install the asset bundle browser right now, and let's check how to do it. It was by maybe going to project settings. Nah, that can be it. Should have been in component, I guess. Miscellaneous window. It should be in the package manager. My apologies for the delay. So in the package manager, you should see a what was it again? Go to here. An asset bundle browser. It should be here. You should already see it, even if you don't have it installed. Then just install it quickly. I'm using version 1.7.0. And once that's installed, you can go to your Skybox or whatever you're trying to import and assign it an asset bundle here. So normally this is set to none. I've already made a bundle called the Skybox Assets Bundle. And yeah, normally you can just type new here. I'm going to call this tutorial bundle, maybe no caps, tutorial bundle, and just press enter. There we go, that adds it to the tutorial asset bundle. And now we just need to go to our asset bundle browser, click on our tutorial asset bundle, and as you can see, it will have added the Skybox and all of its dependencies automatically, which is very nice, which means you don't have to do that manually. So all we have to do now is click build, standalone windows, output path in asset bundle, standalone windows. No need to mess with any of these settings at the moment, and just click build. This should not take too long for simple assets. There we go, that should be done already. Ah, no, it wasn't done yet. There we go, now it's done. Come on. And now it should have automatically opened. Well, usually it automatically opens the folder where it built it, but it will be located in your project folder. Mine is KingMaker DLLs. Now in the asset bundles directory, or maybe in build, let me check now. It's going to be in the assets bundles directory. Standalone windows. And here we go, we've got a tutorial bundle and a tutorial bundle.manifest. I'm still a bit new to this, so for safety's sake, let's just copy both of these. We're going to copy these to a nice location in our project, just to store them. And we're also going to copy these to a folder in our game install. So I made a VRMaker folder here in the KingMaker folder. Let's open it, and I made an assets folder in there, and I just paste my bundles in here. Alright, with that done, let's actually use these bundles in our code. So I've rolled back again to a previous version of the code. And let's close Unity, we're not going to need it anymore. No need to save all this stuff. Well, you need to save this stuff for your own project, but not for mine. Alright, let's see what files we need to add. So it's going to be a nice idea to add a assets folder in here. Assets. And in that folder we want to make another folder called asset files. Again, I don't know if that is absolutely necessary, but I did it and it works anyway, so let's do it for safety's sake. Asset files, and then we want to make an actual class called asset loader. Asset loader.c#. There we go. Now comes the easy part. We just copy paste some functions from my repo. You can write these yourself if you want. So just pause the screen if you want. No, this is a camera manager. Let's see, we need to, yeah. So this is the file we need to copy. It's not much, you can just pause the video here and copy everything. Or you can do like me and go to my repo and just copy it from there. Alright, so the only important plugin we need, the only important reference we need at the moment here is Unity Engine. We're going to keep it in our namespace of our project. Class is called asset loader. And what we're going to do here is define a public static game object called Skybox. This is the this will be the variable that holds the loaded asset itself. Because right now, if you see the constructor for our asset loader, it will make a dynamic var called Skybox bundle, which executes the function load bundle Skybox assets bundle, which in this case it will be called tutorial bundle. So let's change this, tutorial bundle. And the Skybox itself will be load assets of type game object, which is why we wanted to make this prefab a game object from Skybox bundle, and the name is Skybox Go tutorial.prefab. At least I remember it being called Skybox Go. I hope I did not make any mistakes here. Let's open Unity again just to make sure we had the right name for it. And while that's happening, I can explain the functions here. So we're going to start with the load bundle function, which is a private static asset bundle return type. And it only needs the asset name as an argument. So it's going to be variable my loaded asset bundle equals asset bundle dot load from file, which is a default Unity function. And then all we need to do is pass that our path, which here is our game path slash VRMaker slash assets slash assets name. So basically this is our game path. I'm going to go to the folder and the subfolder where we drop this actual bundle. And this gamepad is a holdover from some previous code. Let's go add that back in. Let's go here to plugin.cs. And the gamepad is just this. Where are we going to put it? Before awake, alright. So we're first going to find the game.exe path, which is process, get current process, main module.file name. And then the gamepad will be the directory name where the exe is located. So this will give you the path to the exe, this will give you the path to the folder where the exe resides. Now to fix some reference errors, we just need to add system.io, I believe. Let's add that. There we go, and still need to get that process working, which is, I believe, well, let's just copy over all these things. Does that fix it? Yeah, it fixes it. It's probably system diagnostics, I believe. Alright, so now that we've got our game part, our asset bundle function is working properly. Don't forget to put your own path in here, your own adjustments to the path. Otherwise the bundle won't load. This will be null, and the logs function from a previous tutorial will write an error, failed to load asset bundle, asset name, and return nothing. Alright, now that we've got our bundle loaded, it's time to load the assets from it, or rather a single asset each time. And in this case it's pretty similar. You pass the bundle variable to it, and then you pass the name of the prefab you want to load. I believe it has to be a prefab at the moment, at least that's the code I based this on. That's how it works. Function definition is private t, load asset t, which t is a certain class that derives from Unity engine.object. And as argument, asset bundle and just the prefab name. So variable asset equal just bundle.load assets, which the class. Here you will have to put in the folder path to your assets. So ideally this should just be the name of your assets, and this should be the rest of the paths. So if you go to our Unity project, which will start in just a few minutes. If it has the asset, it will return the asset. If it does not have it, it will write an error to logs and return nothing. Alright, so assets is our root. So we always want to include assets here. And then I've put my asset into custom assets. So we need to copy that as well. And then the prefab name, which is Skybox Geo _ tutorial with a capital T. Yeah, this is probably capital sensitive, so let's write it correctly. And there we go, the asset loader should be working. Now as you can see, this loading will only be done in the constructor of the asset loader. So we still need to just make, if you are at the plugin, we just need to make a new asset loader before we do our patching. Let's go here, new asset loader. And if we did everything correctly, we should now have a Skybox loaded, but it will not be exactly visible yet. So to instantiate it and make it visible, we are going to go to our to a specific file for it. You can choose whatever you want. I'm going to do this in the camera manager, and I'm going to make a function called add Skybox. So again, let's copy and paste this from my own repo. It's a public static void. Remember, static functions are like globals. It can be accessed from everywhere. Add Skybox, which is as simple as this. Just make a var of whatever Skybox you want. Var scene Skybox I called it, and just call GameObject.instantiate, then pass in your assetLoader.Skybox. So pass in this GameObject, the one that is the loaded asset. Pass that in, give it an initial position, give it an initial rotation, and there we go. Your GameObject will have spawned at, will have made a new instance of your GameObject at that specific place with that specific rotation. Now, because this is a Skybox, we want to give it a local scale that is very high. Here I'm giving it a scale of, let's see, 999,999 for everything. And as before, we also want to give it an angle of 270 so that it's angled correctly. Alright, so now your Skybox should be in the game. The only thing left to do is, well, just in my case, is to adjust the camera far clipping plane so that we can actually see the Skybox, which is as easy to do as just say current camera far clip plane, which is as easy to do as just getting your camera, setting its far clip plane to a certain far clip plane distance. I've already done this before, so I know a value that works for me is this one. And we made it a public static float. Alright, then as well adjust it here. By the way, we added an add Skybox function, but this function does not get called yet. So we've got all the code ready, we are just never telling it please add the Skybox. So to do that, you will have to rely on some automatic patch or on some input for it. I'm going to add it here to a certain input patch, which just gets checked every tick. If I press down F1, it will do some code, and I'm just going to add our stuff to it. Just going to add camera manager.add Skybox. And a good place for it would be after got past depot. A good place would be after F1 pressed equals true. Alright. Now at this point, to make sure everything works, you will probably want to add some extra logs to inform you where you were able to get if things went wrong. So I'm going to add a log before and after I added Skybox. So if something goes wrong, we know what happened. And now all that's left to do is compile and build. So before we do, we might want to just drop in the asset files. So go to VRMaker, libs. Let's just drop these here because I've seen other modders do it. No need to adjust anything. Go away. Nice, here you can see the assets it contains. So you have no need to actually start up Unity there. Alright, and now we can just build. Check again, this is all this happens when we press F1. Alright, everything builds. Let's go back to VRMaker. VRMaker bin, oh no, this is the wrong VRMaker, here. VRMaker bin. Copy over both of these guys. Now let's try and watch the magic happen. Got to wait a while for virtual desktop to start up again. Just a minute. There we go. Let's boot up the old VRMaker. Alright. HMD not found. Oh, that's an issue. Probably because I already had OpenVR open. Let's see what happens when it does not find an HMD. Now look at that, it's just acting as normal, that's nice. But we want to see all this in VR, so we're going to have to restart SteamVR. Or rather make it start SteamVR for us. That usually works well with virtual desktop. And let's try again. There we go, not too much errors, I believe. Nice. Let's load in again. Yeah, I'm going to go to OLX Trading's post. Let's enter it. No idea what's happening with that error log, I hope it's not our issue. Not right now. How the hell do I stop this? I can't even, oh Jesus Christ, so I can't even decline it. Oh, the stupid phone. Alright, I don't have much time left. Let's quickly see if it works. Press F1. And there we go. As you can see, there is now a beautiful sky in the game. Alright, so yeah, people are calling for me right now, so I will have to quit the tutorial, but it's finished anyway. Thank you so much for listening again. I hope you learned something nice that you will be able to use in your own Mono Unity VR mods.